Hello, welcome to the Chef Ava Marie Happy Hour podcast. Today, this is an episode dear to my heart. As you may know, my dad, William Martin Romero, he was a trailblazer, and most of all, my daddy has passed away on December 18th, 2023. So this show is for you, Dad. So today we have two politicians in the house today paying tribute to my dad. So please welcome Mayor James Coleman and Councilman Mark Addiego. So let's get him on. So here's James Coleman to the stage. Hi, James. How are you? And Mark, how you guys doing?
Hello, we can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. You guys can hear me? Hold on. Let me just get my mic. Oh, sorry.
She's trying something.
Okay, I know. Sorry. Okay, can you guys hear me now? You guys hear me? Okay,
we
good.
can Good morning.
Hi, Mark. How are you?
Good. I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. So, welcome to the Chef Ava Marie Happy Hour podcast. Sorry for the technical delays. I know.
All right.
So, for James, how did you learn about my dad, Marty Romero, and when did your political journey begin?
Yeah, so thank you so much for having me on this podcast. It's definitely an honor. And I think the first time I met your father was when I was knocking doors when I was running for city council in 2020. And I was able to, say hi to your father and have a little conversation about, some of the most important issues happening in South City, like housing, community development, the economy, all sorts of things. I learned many great things from your father, including his experience on, I believe it was the Measure W oversight board and or some of the measures with the school board as well. And it's just, he comes with such a whole host of historical experience and knowledge that I really appreciate learning from.
That's fantastic. He was a trailblazer and he was a planning commissioner for 13 years. And he was on the board homeowners association. And I had the honor working with Dad. It was my hero. So for Mark, I heard you met my dad in the 1970s. Tell us about your experience with my dad in the 70s.
Well, as it turns out, we were in the same high school together. I think your father was a class ahead of me. And it was actually through politics that I think we first met. So there's that point in time where you're running for student government.
Yeah.
And I wasn't very popular in my own class because there was a gentleman who had been class president who was running and a jock who was running. And, I didn't do well with my own classmates. But the senior class that votes on their way out of the high school, that was their gift to me. And your dad, Marty, was one of the ones that was most enthusiastic because we were talking about issues of the day like dress codes and, major burning issues. But it was really politics from the very beginning. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
That is a message. That's good. And he even talked about a lot in this day. He was the smartest guy you ever met. So what was your memories about Dad to this day on? Because Dad has passed Measure W. He does a lot for his community.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually has disagreements for a lot for his community because he always he doesn't like what's going on today, because he actually had pancreatic cancer on December 18th, unfortunately.
Yeah. I know how difficult that particular disease is because that's what my mother passed away from when she was 56 years old, and it takes you very quickly, and there's a great deal of pain. So I'm sorry that your family had to to have that happen to your father.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark.
One of my best memories of your dad, and sometimes the best memories are when you're in opposition with someone, because it kind of puts you on your toes. So I remember a recent campaign when we were still doing citywide. So I was up in West Winston Manor and I knocked on your dad's door and he came to the door. We had a long conversation about the housing that was going up in South San Francisco, because
Yeah.
there's a fair amount, a pretty big contingent of people from West Winston Manor that aren't so pleased with what's happening in other parts of town, even though it doesn't directly affect them. And he was very, what was nice about Marty, your dad, is that he had reasons for his position. He didn't just regurgitate other people's opposition and pound his fist. He was very thoughtful. I remember he wrote me, I think it was for the PUC property, he wrote me a lengthy missive on why it was not a good idea. And, you know, it was something to really be considered. It didn't change my vote, but at the same time, I was impressed by the research he did to make his case. And that's what I enjoyed about your father. He didn't really, become a reactionary member of the community. He was always a little bit more thoughtful than the average citizen and probably the average politician.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
I remember your father being very smart and very well informed when we were having our conversations, and he would really watch the city council agendas and what would happen. And I remember one time we were talking about how we shouldn't be giving away city land, how we should be leasing it out, and this is one area where we both agreed in, right? Like, we shouldn't be giving away public land, we should be leasing it out, we should be keeping it in the public's hands, because who knows, 20, 30 years from now when that lease runs up and it returns back to the city, there could be a different use that our city could have for that piece of property. And so, we respectfully disagreed on certain things, but we definitely agreed on other issues as well.
Yep, that's part of politics. I agree.
And Ava, I wanted to share with you, because while your father was generally opposed to some of the big apartment houses that were going up in the El Camino area in downtown, I had a very interesting conversation with him, one of the last conversations, when he asked me about, for a period of time, I lived in the condominium building that my father has a unit in. And he was asking me about that lifestyle. Now, you might not know it, but your father was considering selling the family home and having a nice condominium because he wouldn't have to worry about the roof and the backyard and the front yard and the maintenance. So he was open to, for someone who's always lived in a suburban environment, he was open to the idea of what condo living might be like. So I was just impressed by that someone his age that's only, lived a certain way was willing to see maybe some of the benefits of simplifying his life, downsizing, if you will. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's fantastic to hear. And I had David Canepa on the podcast. He did say that Redwood City has the eco-friendly building in the Bay Area. We're just manifesting about the city Parks and Rec building, and I just got another job as a city instructor for the Parks and Rec. You can tell us more about what your experience is like, and how did you guys speak about the Parks and Rec? And so, what was it like to be with Jackie Spear that day?
At the event, at the opening.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's great. And, the new library in Parks and Rec Center, it's all electric. It's very green. There's going to be solar panels on the roof. And, really when, I think addiego was part of the planning process for longer than I, but it was, literally, decades of planning and process and really envisioning what that plot of land could be. And we arrived at, a incredible recreation center that a lot of people are enjoying. And it's Jackie Spear, our former congresswoman, she played a large role in it too, getting us some federal dollars earmarks to fund that building, and it just became something that the community really adores.
That's fantastic. And then my dad would be very disappointed about Iowa and New Hampshire primaries, which is not okay. As a Democrat and independent, we must help our Republican friends vote for Nikki Haley because Trump is dangerous and is a lie. Like Mrs. Pelosi said, he's above the law. Any thoughts on that? My mom is also pissed. And I remember in 2016, my mom went to the hospital because Trump was dangerous. So, any thoughts on that?
Oh, so many thoughts on that. I was, there were some polls that were showing that Nikki Haley was 22 points behind. And as of this morning, it's 11%
Wow.
and a fraction. So she was able to really, I think she put some pressure on our former president. And I hope that I hope she doesn't jump out of the race too quickly.
I want her to win this.
Well, I don't know who I might pick of the three candidates of Biden, Haley, and Trump. The one I can guarantee you that I would never vote for is Donald Trump, because he embarrasses me in every respect. He embarrasses me internationally and domestically, and he believes he can say anything with impunity. So I think it's time to close the chapter on that and become a little bit more civilized. And I think both Biden and Haley would allow that.
Yeah, totally agree, because we're a divided country right now because what's going on in the world. And I know James Coleman's a Democrat. I was a Democrat before all this chaos happened,
And Ava, what are you now?
I'm an independent, both Democrat and Republican. I'm both. I'm half and half.
Good for you. Good for you. I was actually, I don't think I ever shared this with our mayor, but when I registered to vote, I came to City Hall to register in person with a half a dozen other friends from El Camino High School. And we all registered as Republicans. And I stayed a Republican until I was about 40 years old. And then I didn't like the direction of the party. But there was a time where the party had many moderates that were just as enlightened in their viewpoints and as open in their governing as Democrats. And but that's a long time ago. It's unfortunately that's just part of history now. So I changed. I was an independent after being a Republican, and when Hillary Clinton ran, I want there to be a woman president before I'm gone. So I changed to Democrat to be able to vote in the primary.
Good. We're on the same page. So, and then other thing is, for James, I heard you're running for a San Mateo County Democratic Party committee. Can you tell us more about your work and how you want to address the commission you're running in? I heard it's in the works, and tell us more about this Sunday.
Sure. So there is this thing that most people don't know about. It's called the Central Committee for the San Mateo County Democratic Party. And it's not a real office. It's, a position within our local San Mateo County Democratic Party. And essentially their responsibilities are, organizing Democrats locally in our county. I think you popped out there. Now you're back in. Okay. So organizing Democrats. I'm doing some fundraising. We do a lot of work because San Mateo County is very blue. We do a lot of work in purple districts throughout the country, right? Sending them some resources, volunteering, phone banking for them. There are folks who have traveled to other states and in swing districts to help elect Democrats. And then they also have a say in the endorsements for our local Democratic Party. And I think that, one of the reasons why I'm running is because there is not a single directly elected Central Committee member who is from South San Francisco. I don't think there ever has been. Currently, we do have Congressman Kevin Mullen, who's an ex officio. So because he's in Congress, he does have a vote on the Central Committee. But we don't have anyone from San Bruno, from South San Francisco, from Millbrae. So I think there's a lot more opportunity for us to have representation there. Also, when we have 30 Central Committee members total, only 5 are Asian identifying, and there's not a single young Democrat there. So I think that I can help bring those differing perspectives to our local Democratic Party leadership.
That's fantastic. And was independents welcome as well? So
to be able to vote, I believe you have to be a registered Democrat.
Yeah.
You will get the ballot in the mail.
Okay. So you can't be in Republican or independent. No.
No.
So Ava, this is great because I'm learning things about James that are bringing back my memories of earlier times. So James is the youngest mayor ever, beats my record. Youngest councilman ever, beats my record. But if he's elected to the Democratic Central Committee, he won't be the youngest Central Committee member from South San Francisco, I'll bet on the Republican side. So I had a friend who was active in Republican politics. And before I got involved in city government, I was elected to the Republican Central Committee from the 1st District because there weren't a lot of takers for that particular job. But it is a very interesting job, the dynamics behind the scenes. So much of it is behind the scenes. But it's really about garnering sufficient candidates and quality candidates, which is something there seems to be a dearth of. I think that, I go back to a time, and I don't know if these names would resonate, but there was a Congressman, Bill Royer, who was from Redwood City before there was Tom Lantos. There was an assemblyman by the name of Bob Naylor, who was very active in the Central Committee. So there was a time where the other party was a force to be reckoned with, not winning a lot of seats, but at least making some of them competitive. So it was a much more interesting time politically when it was a true two-party system.
Wow, that's fantastic. Even though they're just people, so.
That's right.
Yep.
So I'm going to ask for Mark Addiego. I heard you're helping at Rich Garbarino with the St. Patty's Day dinner coming up in March with the Police Association dinner fundraiser. And apparently the West Wisdom Manor attends the event. Can you tell us, the viewers, more about the fundraiser?
So I think I have to correct you because I can't take any credit for that particular event. It goes back to a gentleman named Pat Sullivan, who was a detective, a much revered detective in South San Francisco, who suffered from a terrible cancer over a very long time. Pat Sullivan was proud of his Irish roots, and so this it was begun after his passing to celebrate. Actually, I think he put on a private one at his home prior, but it kind of expanded after he passed away. Wow. And there's about 700 people that attend. I don't know if do you have a large Irish listening audience, Ava?
I do have some Irish people. I'm going
to take a chance to tell you it's one of my least favorite meals. I'm not into cabbage.
I love Irish food, yes.
The corned beef is great, but the cabbage, the smell or whatever. I think I'm going to be out of town that particular weekend coming up. So I can't tell you much about the event.
So something people might not know about me is that I'm on my white side. So I'm half Taiwanese and half white. My white side is half
Asian.
German and Irish. So I am part Irish.
Oh, wow. So you got a little European background. I'm actually Norwegian, Irish, and Dutch too. So I got a little bit Irish in me, but I'm mostly a European Mexican. I got a little Eurovision in me, in Mexican. Yeah. So I'm going to play a little game with you guys. I do this for every guest on the show. So the top 5 is we're going to play. So here's how it's going to work. So we're going to ask you about your top favorite hobbies. So we're going to ask each of you one free. So we're going to start with James Coleman. What's your favorite podcast? So we'll start with James.
My favorite podcast?
Yes.
I think yours right now.
Thank you. And then what about Mark Addiego? What's your favorite podcast?
I'm afraid I'm from the generation that I don't listen to a lot of podcasts.
Okay. Favorite TV show for James Coleman?
Oh, that's so hard. Let's see. What have I been watching recently? I mean, I like Breaking Bad a lot. I'll say that.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic. What about Addiego?
Well, recently I got hooked on because I like the actors in the program, Selena Gomez and
Marty Short.
Martin Short and Steve Martin are in Only Murders in the Building, and it's
oh my gosh, I love that.
Isn't it great? It just wrapped up, but it'll be interesting the next season. So
gotta watch that on reruns. Yeah. You definitely gotta check it out. And favorite book for James Coleman? What's your favorite book to read?
Favorite book? Well, I don't really do a lot of reading, but
you got to as a mayor. Yes.
I think some Naomi Klein is good for me.
Wow. What about you, Mark Addiego?
So I do enjoy reading because it allows me to escape from my reality and from my politics. And so I'll select, sometimes are a little bit political. There's a recent book on Lincoln that is from the perspective of a Black housekeeper in the Lincoln household which is probably more fabricated than reality, but it speaks to some of the issues of the day. So I enjoyed that book greatly, and I meant to share that with James, although I don't know if he has time for this. It's just escapist storytelling. But recently there was a book called The Wager, and the Wager is the name of a ship that the British had. I think it goes back to the late 1700s, and it was a gentleman. The author was Gann, Gann, and it's just brilliantly done, and it should become a movie because it's just descriptive and it draws you in where you lose sleep because you can't set the book down.
I agree. And then favorite place to eat in the Bay Area. We start with Mr. Coleman.
Favorite place to eat. I mean, there's so many, but I think my number one right now is Hula Hoops in South San Francisco.
Oh wow, hula hoops. And what about you, Mr. Addiego?
I've been to Hula Hoops, and it is a fun place, very definitely. First time I met and sat with Eddie Flores, we chose Hula Hoops, and we also enjoyed the drinks that night too. I remember that specifically.
Oh my God, on Westboro Boulevard, I've been there one time, and it is a great place to get drinks and food. You know, it's just like a 7 Mile.
Yeah, no, exactly. But if I'm celebrating something, I like. I hope this doesn't bother the locals too much. I like to get out of town occasionally, and so if I'm celebrating something, like if it's my father's birthday, as an example, we'll go to the House of Prime Rib in San Francisco. Something.
Wow, that's fantastic!
Just to change the environment.
Good. And then favorite places to travel in around the world. We'll start with James.
Definitely Japan. I've been there 3 times, and I want to keep on going.
Good. That's fantastic. I know you've been to DC a few times too. That's the fun fact about you.
DC is more business related.
Good. And then what about you, Mr. Addiego? Do you ever travel out of state or country?
Not enough. Very definitely not enough. I'm sure that I hope to have enough time, especially after I leave council, where I'll be able to see more of the world. There's no place that I've been to that I don't enjoy. From Chicago to Kyoto, Japan. But really one of my favorite places, because as soon as I'm off the plane, I feel different inside. And for me, it's Hawaii. Hawaii works for me.
Hawaii, because my dad loved it.
Yeah, it surprised me. My first visit, I felt different, and so I've been back many times, and I hope to continue that.
You know, my dad loved Las Vegas. He was Las Vegas. That was his favorite place to go. It was mine too, actually. So I loved Las Vegas.
It's very escapist, so it's fun.
Yeah. It was a little entertainment background. So it was like a lot of entertainment. It was like my favorite place. So Las Vegas was my jam. So anyways, it was good to have you guys on, and you guys were great.
Can I share one last memory of your father?
Yes.
Because it came to me because we're in the conference room, the large conference room here at City Hall, and this is the room where when a city clerk named Sylvia Payne left office, kind of was a surprise. We actually interviewed. There was some thought on council that we might simply appoint a city clerk. And so we did interviews in this room, and your father was one of the people that was interviewed, along with Krista Martinelli Larson. She would become, through election, she would become city clerk, and I can't remember who else. But I knew that day that your father was the one that was best prepared, and really kind of like apolitical, which is important when you're going for that particular office. Mm-hmm. And then the council lost their nerve about appointing. So it went to an election, which I guess is always more fair. Yeah. And at the same time, I felt that your father was the best choice if we had appointed, very definitely.
Yeah, it was so sad because it would cost him a lot of money at the time. I know, because the city, really, he was a great power. He was a great guy. He should have ran for city clerk because he deserved a job. Like, this was his place, you
I
know.
think he had the best resume. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because Martinelli's good, and she was a good girl, and she was definitely sweet. I actually love her autistic son, you know, because her story is remarkable.
Sure, definitely.
Did she say how many kids before she ran for city clerk? Do you know?
Before she ran, I'm not sure. I think she had the children when she was in office.
She did.
Yeah, yeah,
And her children are beautiful.
they are.
Yep.
So are the Romero children.
I'm their celebrity.
You're the famous one.
Yes.
Well, this was nice, Ava. Thank you for including me.
Yeah,
You're welcome, addiego. And then it was good to have you on, James Coleman.
It's an honor to chat with you, and I'm proud to have you as a constituent.
Oh, that's right.
You're welcome.
She's yours.
Yeah. So
Thank you for having.
Please let me know if you ever need anything. I'm always happy to help.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, thank you for coming on the show. You guys were wonderful guests, and anytime, okay?
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Ava.
Enjoy your day.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.
That was James Coleman. That was addiego. They were wonderful guests, so it was good to have them on. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So that was it for the show. So at the 2 o'clock hour, we're going to have a food influencer, Katie Morford. So tune in at 2 o'clock as we have her cook live at the 2 o'clock hour with us from Mom's Kitchen Handbook. So see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.